Hi, welcome to Fertility Talks. I'm Mary Wong, your host, and I am in beautiful Puerto Vallarta. And today I am so stoked to be here to talk to you guys about doing fertility outside of your own country. Like, hello, who knew that that was an option? I know it wasn't for me at all. I didn't even think about it, but because now I know more and I've been through the journey myself, I just wanted to provide you more information so that you have choice about what you want to do when it comes to taking charge of your fertility. So I want to really thank Dr. Velez for being here with us today, and Alonso as well, who is the, what do you call yourself again?
We are journey coordinators.
The journey coordinator. How awesome is that? So we're going to talk a bit about basically fertility tourism, which is a thing, and they're going to answer some questions that we have. But before I do so, if this is your first time joining me, I created this. I'm a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine and author of Pathways to Pregnancy, and I'm actually going to give you a copy of the book and for your patients to read. And the reason why I'm here is, and the reason why I do these talks, is to provide you the most up-to-date information with research and professional opinion rather than Dr. Google, who may give you misinformation. So here we are, and again, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, so the very first question is, here we are in Mexico, and I know that a lot of people, when they travel, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can travel because I'm afraid of Zika. So really, that's the very first question. And I know, I just found out through Alonso that 80% of patients come from abroad, and primarily through Canada and the United States. So can you tell us a bit about Zika and why people don't necessarily need to worry about that here?
The number of the case of the Zika in Puerto Vallarta, in Nuevo Vallarta, the clinic is in the Nuevo Vallarta, is from 50 minutes to Puerto Vallarta. The number of the case is very low. It's maybe 3 cases in the last year. Is the Zika in this area is not common, okay? And
so we shouldn't worry is what you're saying, the bottom
yes.
line. Okay, and you know what? I've been here now 2 days, and I actually have to say, you're right by the water, there's ocean, there's mountains. I really didn't see much mosquito. Yes, my daughter did get a mosquito bite, wait, 2, but normally I'm like this, like if there's 1 mosquito around, yeah, 1, and there's 100 of you, they'll attack me. That's typically what happens, and I have not had 1 bite yet, so just so you know. Okay, so that takes care of Zika. Now, the first question that people would think about is when they're contemplating going somewhere else is obviously cost, right? So typically people think, oh gee, maybe it'll cost less elsewhere. And so I want to get the reality of costs in Mexico and specifically at your clinic.
Okay, the cost will depend on the age factor, which is below 40 is $8,000 US dollars, and above 40 is $9,000 US dollars, which includes the medications.
Okay, did you guys hear that? That includes medication. So I'm going to tell you off the bat, that makes it less expensive because I don't know why, but medications cost more in Canada and even more in the US.
Here in Mexico, we don't have big pharma, so that actually reduces the cost dramatically because there's not so many intermediates in getting the medications to the patients.
Oh.
So whenever we order them, we already start off at the low price from the producers to us, and the markup is not that much, just like maybe 1 or 2 intermediates, and that's it.
Wow.
So in the US, there's like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different intermediates, and each one of them increases the costs.
Yes.
Which in turn increases the cost to the final recipient, which is the patient.
Right. But these are the same drugs,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, exactly. Same medications and the producers that send to the United States, we use the same ones.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so cost is definitely less for the drugs, and it sounds like the IVF procedural stuff is actually a little less. Not necessarily like completely, well, you know, it's going to cost no matter what.
The IVF does, there are some expensive procedures as far as the fertilizations, the freezing, the nitrogens, the storage. These are all costs that have to be contemplated into the IVF. Just here in Mexico, it's not so expensive to actually perform these procedures.
Why is that?
Well, the labor rates, we don't make as much as up in the States. That's a reality.
Right.
The doctors are kind of like up in the States, they're way expensive because of their personal rates and whatnot. The utilities, all the expenses in the maintaining of the clinic are a fraction of what it will cost up in the U.S.
Right, makes sense.
So our overhead is not so high as a clinic in the U.S. Not so much just because of the labor, but also because of the cost to run the clinic.
Right, of course, that really makes sense. Okay.
So that decrease in cost, well, we pass it along to the patients, so they don't have to kind of like pay the U.S. prices in Mexico, and also on top of that, the traveling. Right. So we actually work with them as far as it's going to be a little more expensive to travel here for 10 to 21 days. So we try to work with them on the cost of the actual IVF procedure.
Well, I want you to address this. I love this, what you were saying, because as a journey coordinator, you were saying that you actually coordinate their stays even. So, you're taking, as you know, this journey is so heart-wrenching and so difficult. It's like, not something else to think about, right?
Yes. Since a lot of patients actually come down here and they don't know where to stay, they've never been outside of the country, or they've never been to Mexico. So what we do is we offer them accommodations, we offer them places to stay, what are they looking for, we get information, and then we provide information. So we do help with accommodations, and actually, so it's not so stressful. Because whenever you're doing any vacation, whether it be traveling in the US or in Canada, even inside of Canada, you still have to plan everything. Mm-hmm. Where you're staying, how much, flights, taxis, and everything. So we actually help with that. And
just so you know, when they say I'll help you with that, they're doing it without extra fees, right? And the other thing I loved was that you can have a consultation on the phone to even see if this is a fit for you. And what you said was you want to see if you're a fit for them.
Yes, correct. We have to kind of like identify whether the patients are actual candidates and whether it's convenient for them and for us for a patient to come here. Because if we know it's not going to work, then we're really straightforward and direct with the patients, and we want to save them as much as possible and not kind of like allow them to make unnecessary costs.
Right.
So the initial consult with the medical staff is included. We don't charge for it. And that is to identify what their best options are. It can be an option to come to us. It can be an option to go elsewhere. It can be an option to not do the IVF and do egg donation. Mm-hmm. Whatever comes out of that first phone call, now we have options. And it's like a diagnosis, if you will. And what that allows us to do on our end is make a plan for the patient and explain the plan so they can conscientiously accept it or deny it or reject it. Which for us, it's completely their option, their choice, and we'll respect whatever they decide. So we just want them to make an educated decision and not just any kind of like emotional decision.
Absolutely. So I really love this because they're being authentic and upfront about their ability to help you. And so if you qualify, so what's a parameter for qualification, for example?
It all depends on the medical situations.
Yes, and depends of each patient, and depends of the situation of has treatment before, is performance IVF before, how many, the results, if your own eggs or not, is your own sperm or not. It depends. It depends. But the majority of the patient is under 50 years.
Under 50 years?
Yes.
Well, that's a big parameter. I'm like, is it under 40? But you're under 50, that's like everybody. Okay, interesting. All right. So the commitment when traveling abroad for IVF, I mean, we need to address that, right? So that people don't just think that they're coming in for a day, which is, if you've never done IVF, it is a process. And I know you say that you'll guide them through, but there's specific protocols. So some people may use a satellite clinic. So a clinic that you may have already used back home as a satellite to do your blood work and ultrasound, but then ultimately come here to do the actual procedural stuff, right?
Yes. Well, depending on the patient's availability, is where we give options. Ideally, have one place do the entire procedure from start to finish. That's our first option. If they can be here for the complete time, even if we split up into 2 visits, one doctor, one clinic is doing everything.
So what's the time commitment then?
21 days.
21 days,
Yes,
guys.
21 days from start to finish if all the factors are permit. If the endometrium is receptive, if the progesterone levels, hormone levels permit, all these factors have to allow for the process to be completed in the 21 days.
Okay, so that now you're talking 21 days for a fresh transfer.
Yes.
So that includes the fresh transfer.
Yes.
But if it's a frozen embryo transfer, then for sure you would have to come back again.
Yes. If it's a frozen embryo transfer, we do start on the same start. It's for 15 days for the first visit to stimulate, retrieve, and then fertilize. We freeze the embryos, and then the second visit will be for 8 days to transfer the embryos, following a protocol for the endometrial preparation. So what happens is, depending on the circumstances of the case, of the situation, of the development, of everything, will determine whether it's a 1 visit, 21 days, or a 2 visit, 15 days and 8 days.
Okay, all right, you got that? You'll do the math, do some calculations, but you know, of course, the one real great bonus, and you can't see it right now because we're in the office, but it's a beautiful place to be. So if we're wanting to decrease our stress levels, and you're away from your work, away from all the people that will ask you all these unwanted questions that are around you, this is a really great alternative option. Yeah.
We actually selected Puerto Vallarta because of the location. It's very safe here. It's a tourist town. It's a tourist destination. It's a very friendly town. So we actually chose Puerto Vallarta because of the actual location of the
Right. Okay, so that brings in a very good point, right? Because some of you have never traveled and you think, oh my gosh, Mexico, maybe gangs or something. And so you're definitely not anywhere near any of this.
Yes.
Because listen, really, like anywhere you go, and even in Toronto or Vancouver or in California, there's lots of places that are seedy. Well, this is by far an oasis, okay? So nothing to worry about here. And it's direct flight from most
Yes.
larger cities.
Yes, we have an airport here. It's about 15 minutes away, and there are direct flights to us.
Okay.
If not, it's from your city to Mexico City, and then Mexico City to here. So it's one layover.
Right. Yeah. And you know, I know that I was asking earlier, so a lot of people come from like California and Vancouver just because it's more of a direct line, so it's a little closer, but you do have some people coming from Toronto, so I just thought I would throw it out there as an option.
Yes.
Right? So then let's address another thing. People worry about, oh my gosh, how about clinical standards and safety? Can you address that?
Yes, the clinic is safe. We have the regulation for the COFEPRIS. COFEPRIS is the same that the FDA in the United States and Canada.
So let me just add in as a translation. So basically the standards are the same as FDA approved, but because we're outside of the US, they don't
Certify.
They don't certify. That's right.
So since our patients do come outside of Mexico and they actually from the U.S. and Canada, they already come in with a specific idea of what their treatment's going to be. So we actually model our care under the FDA certifications, restrictions, or restrictions. So since patients are already expecting a really good service and a really good care and the quality, we actually look into it.
Awesome. Love that, right? Because again, when you don't know something, there's this automatic stereotyping and fear is raised. And when we have fear raised, then it's like, oh no, right? But here, like from what I see, I've walked around here, quality is here for sure, right? And I would say above and beyond the beautiful surroundings, the quality of care, and I would equate it to like large hotel versus like a boutique hotel, and this is a high-end boutique hotel.
Yes, the care that we have
Right?
here is more personalized and more directed towards an individual patient. It's not a cookie-cutter process. It's never a cookie-cutter process. So what we do is we first investigate the situation, and then we create a plan for that situation. So each one of the patients has to have their directed their specific indications based on their factors, based on their circumstances. So it's like, yeah, we provide protocols based on what the situation is, what the issues are.
Of course, yes. So that's individualized care. And what I want to add in, because Alonso was telling me that he would get calls in the middle of the night and he'd answer them
Yeah.
because the patients would be, and of course with reason, right? Like, you know, oh my gosh, the medication is doing this, I'm having reaction, or I'm having bleeding or spotting, oh my goodness, what should I do? Well, Alonso answers, and if he doesn't know the answer, he'll, you know, text Dr. Velez and then he'll answer.
Yeah.
So really, unfortunately, unlike the clinics that I'm used to dealing with, people actually, I don't work at the fertility clinics, and our patients that are are at both will communicate with me and I answer them. I'm like, I don't even work for them, and I just want to dispel their fears, right? So here you have the direct clinic basically addressing all your concerns whenever you want, 24/7 apparently. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, a lot of the times patients, well, they don't know what is normal for a procedure. So whenever something happens that's totally normal for us, they get scared. They kind of get worried. So they write me messages, or they kind of get in contact with us after hours or late hours in the night, because it's something that's not normal for them. So we either respond to them in the same moment, or we actually, if it's an emergency, we give them a call. The communication with us and our patients is actually very quick, very personal, and even if we don't have an hour, we don't have a kind of like, okay, the door's closed and that's it. No, it's a 24-hour job, and sometimes the question comes in at midnight, and if we're awake, we respond.
If you're awake, yeah.
If we're not awake,
depends how deep of a sleeper you are, I guess.
Yes, so it all depends on if it's an emergency or not.
Yes.
And sometimes they are emergencies, and so yes, sometimes we actually do respond whenever it's something that needs to be responded to.
Sure, of course. Okay, so that's fantastic. Okay, guys, I mean, I'm not going through it anymore, but this sounds like, I wish I knew, right? So in terms of, so you do IUIs, but more IVF, I take it, right?
Yes.
And then with IVF, are you doing donors as well?
Yes.
Donor egg and donor sperm? Okay, and you have a surrogacy agency as well within,
Yes,
correct?
whenever the topic of surrogacy comes up, since there are so many legal aspects, emotional, physical, recruit, there's a lot of aspects that go into making this process workable, doable. So there's an agency actually who takes care of all of that. What we do here is we actually we get the ingredients, which is the egg, sperm, and the surrogate, and we make her pregnant. So we actually put all these processes together, and we achieve the pregnancy. However, the agency will take care of the 9 months. So there is a guide during the whole surrogacy process, because it's not just an IVF.
Right.
It's the start, the testing, the IVF, the pregnancy, the 9 months, the birth, and then the exit of the baby to where it's going.
Of course.
So that topic is way different, and you do have to be guided through it.
Sure.
Because one little error that you make can keep your baby here.
Right, of
And
course.
it's kind of difficult to get the baby out if you make mistakes during the legal process.
Okay.
Because it's
Wow.
not that difficult to get a person pregnant,
Of
as far
course.
as a surrogate.
For
Because
the
they're-
surrogates,
Yes.
yeah.
The difficult part is whenever the baby is born, get it out. So we have to do everything legal before we even start the pregnancy.
Right, right. So meaning, again, the legality of getting the baby out of the country and into your country.
Yes, correct.
So you're adopting, getting the adoption process kind of thing.
Yes, well, everything's just done, the legal part is done first, because we want to have the permissions before we even start the
Sure,
pregnancy.
sure.
Because we don't want to have a pregnancy and be stuck in legal battles.
No, of course.
And the baby be
Okay.
stuck in Mexico. So we do the legal work, permissions, okay, perfect. And then we move on to the egg donor, sperm donor, surrogate, and now we get everything together
Okay.
and ready.
So this is kind of going beyond what we were going to cover. We're just doing like basic IVF stuff. But yes, for even like donor eggs, so you have a donor egg program
Yes.
here? Okay.
We have an egg bank, a cryo bank, a sperm bank. We're starting an embryo adoption program because
Okay.
now patients, since
Right.
we have now patients who have embryos left over, but they don't want to get having more kids. So
Right.
now we're starting the embryo
The
adoption
program.
program.
Right. Okay, very cool. Is there any last that you want to share with the people that are struggling out there? Just one thing that you want to say to them?
Is coming to Vallarta, enjoy Puerto Vallarta, enjoy the IVF treatment. We are the security downtown, and I hope to all in the clinic. I hope to the help to the people to has pregnant, but maybe the most important for us is we are very honest with the people.
Very honest, yes. And I totally sense that. You're very
Yes.
authentic and honest. I appreciate it.
I would just like to say, trust the people who are doing the procedure. Allow the doctors to do their job. Allow the coordinators to do their part, because we all want the same thing. We want a baby. We want a live birth. We want the family to be complete. So whenever the doctors or somebody gives indications, trust them. Trust those indications. They're for a reason. Whether it's here at Live, whether it's anywhere else, just trust the person who is actually giving you, because they have years and years and years of experience.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. So
Depending on where you go, right?
Correct.
But here you do, yes.
Yes. So yeah, just allow for the professionals to do their job.
I think that's really wise advice. Thank you for that. And yeah, because here's the thing, guys. Fertility tourism is a thing, so this is one of many places that people will turn to and go to. And so choosing wisely, and I guess that medical consult will be a big sign, a big telling of if you want to go and pursue wherever you choose to go to. Right?
Yes. Yes, we need to find out what's going on to be able to find a solution for it. Sometimes there is a solution, sometimes there's not. Whichever way it is, we'll let you know. Because you have to be able to understand what you're getting into. You have to be able to understand that we only have a specific amount of control. We can't control everything. We're not God. We're not kind of like, but there's only so much we can do.
No, and no one can promise you anything. You all know this already. For those of you who've already done multiple rounds of IVFs,
Yes.
right? We know that there's no guarantee.
Correct.
But you want to also know that you've done everything that you possibly can. And look at, what are the ways that can make this journey a little bit less arduous, less painful,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So thank you for that. Okay, let's not belabor this any longer. Have a great rest of the holiday time, and I know I'm gonna, because I'm gonna head over to the beach any second now. Have a great one. We'll talk to you really soon, guys, and I'm just gonna press the button and say goodbye. Mwah.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.